Now, the other aspects of this car are grand. If you're using it as a family sedan, it is beautiful on the inside. It is, I think, very sexy on the outside, and it is extremely comfortable. Let me go back to normal mode on the inside. This is the kind of car that you would feel relaxed in after a hard day of work. Meet the 2016 Nissan Maxima, and if you look right here by the light, it says 4DSC, and that stands for four-door sports car. So on the TFL scale of buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it, is the Maxima a four-door sports car? Well, there you have it. It's a forget it, because a four-door sports car would not have front-wheel drive and a CVT. If you want a four-door sports car, I say get a Dodge Charger Hellcat or maybe a BMW M5. But the real question is, how does this do and how does it rate as a large family sedan? And that is coming up right now on the Fast Lane Car. I was lucky enough to drive this car way back in Nashville when it first came out for the press, and Nissan provided us with a competing vehicle, and you won't believe what that was. It was a four-door sports car. Well, that's what they called it, at least, just like this. It was an ACURA, and if you want to watch that video, just click on the video next to me, because that's an interesting comparison of a CVT to a regular transmission. So, speaking of the CVT, I know I'm kind of whining on about the fact that this has a CVT because, let's face it, CVTs are much more fuel efficient, and in a lot of ways, if you're a regular car shopper, the fact that it has a CVT doesn't really bother you. But here's a part about a CVT that bothers me, and even if I put this in sport mode, which, by the way, makes the steering heavier and changes the way that the CVT works, it still has that classic CVT drone. And I'll show you what I mean. It is redlining, and it is fast, but it's just not heartfelt, if you know what I mean. I just don't feel like I'm engaged with the car. It's like somebody's taken a pillow and put it between my right foot and the accelerator pedal. It just doesn't do it for me. As you know, every car at TFL starts as a perfect 10, and certainly this engine deserves it. It's a very powerful V6, 3.5 liters that puts out 300 horsepower and 261 pound-foot of torque. Unfortunately, it is paired to a CVT transmission, and any car that aspires to being a sporty car and has a CVT is going to lose a 10, no matter how good that CVT is. Now, the other aspects of this car are grand. If you're using it as a family sedan, it is beautiful on the inside. It is, I think, very sexy on the outside, and it is extremely comfortable. Let me go back to normal mode on the inside. This is the kind of car that you would feel relaxed in after a hard day of work. You would look at the beauty of the interior and you would think to yourself, you know what? My boss taking a big fat dump on me today, well, that was all worth it because I'm driving home in a car that punches above its weight class when it comes to style. And sometimes that is all it takes to sell a car. Style-wise, check it out. It's this new floating roof design language that Nissan brought in with the Murano. And now Lexus has it in the new RX. And you know what? Style-wise, I like this car. It is sharp, it is sexy, it is powerful, and it is definitely a good-looking vehicle. Now, you may disagree with Nissan's design language, but when you see this going down the road, it has presence. And at the end of the day, that's what good design is all about. In terms of driving dynamics, it's good. You know, there's a lot of electronics that keep this car on the sporty side of the scale. So when you take a turn, it doesn't feel like you're necessarily paying the penalty or in the penalty box for a front-wheel drive vehicle. It doesn't have that kind of classic torque steer that a lot of front-wheel drive vehicles have, because it has 300 horsepower, which is a lot of power. So all that technology does a very good job in camouflaging the fact that this is a front-wheel drive car. But you know, when you get on ice, or you get into snow, or you get into extreme situations, you'll know it's a front-wheel drive car. And in my head, even though it's trying to camouflage itself as a rear-wheel drive car, I can tell that this car is being pulled and not pushed. And there's just something more satisfying about a car being pushed and about the front wheels doing only one job, steering, instead of two jobs, steering and providing the power. Now, as good looking as the Maxima is on the outside, it's that much better on the inside. Look at this quilted seat. It just says bespoke. Now, bespoke is kind of a thing right now. It basically means handcrafted, personalized, and Nissan calls this interior bespoke. And cars like Bentleys and Rolls Royces are truly bespoke because they are built to the designer's specifications, but to the owner's taste. And while this car isn't personalized, on the inside it is just absolutely beautiful. The only complaint I have is this flat bottom steering wheel. I know it's supposed to be a four-door sports car, but a flat bottom steering wheel doesn't say sports car to me. It just says, Nissan, you're trying a little too hard. Let's just, me and you, talk about the other things that make a good car into a great car, which this is almost bordering on. I like the fact that this has a hand-stitched, or at least looks to me like a hand-stitched steering wheel. The leather is nice and supple. There are two types of leather on the steering wheel. There's this perforated leather and there's this smooth leather. It just is very well thought out. You know, I think Nissan spent a lot of time, money, and energy in developing this car, and it shows. You might be thinking to yourself, why is he just concentrating on the steering wheel? There are a lot more important things in a car. Suspension, power, MPG, just to name a few. Price, of course, and this is the Platinum model, and $41,000 is a lot of money, but it is a top-of-the-line model. And the reason I'm talking about the steering wheel is because it's a part that I touch and hold the entire time, and most of the time that I'm in the car. So it's the part that I interact with the most. And that's why I think that the steering wheel is important, because it's a part that kind of talks to my heart. The other things I talked about, the fuel economy, you know, for this class, it's right in there with the other cars. The Nissan Maxima competes with other large four-door sedans like the Toyota Avalon, the Dodge Charger, the Ford Taurus, and of course the Chevy Impala. And the great thing about all these large sedans is that they have plenty of room in the trunk. Oh my gosh, you can fit at least 4 suitcases in here. There's nothing, I mean, there is nothing like a large sedan, of course outside a minivan, to hold all your stuff and all of your kids' stuff. And of course, the Nissan Maxima has been around a long time, since I was a kid. You know, it's like the Camry, it's like the Accord. It's one of these cars that all of my friends' parents had when I was growing up. And so when Nissan goes and redevelops this and actually spends a lot of time, energy, and money on it, I'm actually surprised, because this market segment, the full-size sedan, is slowly but surely dying. There was some question whether Nissan would actually redo the Maxima, because all of you guys are out there buying crossovers, and specifically now buying small crossovers. So actually, I'm kind of happy that Nissan did take the time to actually have a new Maxima, because it does tug at my heartstrings, because this car is one of those cars that I remember being passengered in when I was a little guy growing up in Chicago. So far, I've taken 1 point away for the CVT, and I'm really racking my brains about taking off another point. But at $41,000, it's expensive, but so are the other cars in this segment. It's relatively fuel efficient. I love the styling. I love the interior. I love the engine. You know what? 1 point is all I can take away. So, on the TFL scale of buy it, lease it, rent it, or forget it, I'm gonna give it a big old buy it. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. And remember, check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real-world reviews. See you next time. I've got a Nissan Maxima to drive. You know what? These 2016 models, they are rolling in fast and furious now. And if you want to see a 2016 review, just click on me, because in the last month we've reviewed, let me think, the new Miata, the new Smart Car, the new HRV, the new Accord. That's just to name a few. And you can watch all those reviews on TFL Car just by clicking on me or clicking on the link below.